West Hill United is a progressive spiritual community where how you live is more important than what you believe. West Hill United is a people, a place, an idea. We are a community living out of a progressive faith, striving to make a positive difference in our own lives, the lives of others, and the world. Join us Sundays at 10:30 a.m. or connect with us at any time.
Hello there to all you interconnected people, whether in the hall space in Toronto or the world space in Zoom. My name is Chris Avis, and I'm specially privileged to be the welcomer and reader at our West Hill gathering today, which includes, among other riches, our annual celebration of those we have loved and lost. In connection with that, I'd just like to use this poem, which was by Rabindranath Tagore, and it's a reflection on the narrator's contentment with his life and his gratitude to friends for their companionship and support. I understand it is fairly well known, though not to me until now. I think it fits the situation today in our service very well. It's called Farewell, My Friends. Farewell, my friends. It was beautiful as long as it lasted, the journey of my life. I have no regrets whatsoever said, the pain I leave behind. Those dear hearts who love and care, and the strings pulling at the heart and soul. The strong arms that held me up when my own strength let me down. At the turning of my life, I came across good friends, friends who stood by me, even when time raced by. Farewell, farewell, my friends. I smile and bid you goodbye. No shedding of tears, for I need them not. All I need is your smile. If you feel sad, do think of me, for that's what I like. When you live in the hearts of those you love, remember then you never die. Now our regular land acknowledgement. This week, what we are considering is that West Hill United is located in Treaty 20 and in the area of the Williams Treaties of 1923. These are the lands of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation and were previously occupied by the Seneca and Huron-Wendat First Nations. I believe that most of us are unaware that the world's approximately 476 million indigenous peoples make up approximately 6% of the global population, and yet they play a vital role in biodiversity conservation. They manage or hold tenure rights to approximately a quarter of the world's surface area, accounting for a significant portion of the world's biodiversity. Nearly half of the Earth's protected areas, and over half of the planet's remaining intact forests that are crucial for sustaining life on Earth. As treaty people, we support the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, which under Section 10 tells us that Indigenous peoples shall not be forcibly removed from their lands or territories. No relocation shall take place without the free, prior, and informed consent of the Indigenous peoples concerned. This declaration provides a roadmap to the advancement of lasting reconciliation with Indigenous peoples worldwide. That day can't come soon enough. It's reading time. And as most of us know, at the end of the readings, we normally add the phrase offered as wisdom for the journey, and we invite you to respond with, may we walk in its light. This is just a suggestion, not an order, so feel free. And we've got just one reading today, again, not very long, but important, very important, as our readings always are. And it comes from words of Martin Luther King Jr., just slightly adapted to inclusive language. And he said, in a real sense, all life is interrelated. We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. I can never be what I ought to be until you are what you ought to be. And you can never be what you ought to be until I am what I ought to be. This is the interrelated structure of reality, offered as wisdom for the journey. Joe.
Thank you so much, Chris. This morning, I have three main things that I want to talk about. We're going to talk about kind of what led to this current series on connection. And then we're going to briefly just talk about this series. And then we're going to go into this part of celebrated lives, because we are all connected to those who've come before us. We literally would not be sitting here today if it wasn't for those who came before us. We are forever connected to them. So what led to this series? Well, I've told this story before, so bear with me. But when I first came to West Hill, now 6-7 months ago, I was asked by Scott, my first Sunday, to do something called the affirmation of values. And I thought, what is that? And then my next thought was, well, I'm guessing it's something that affirms the values. You know, I put two and two together. And I had gotten to know West Hill's values, those three main pillars that I had mentioned earlier, to that we are grounded in life and our humanity together, that we choose to be guided by love, and then we choose to be to grow in wisdom. And I thought about those values, and immediately I knew what I felt like I should share. I mean, this was my first time connecting with all of you. And I thought, well, what's the most important? What's the best thing that I could share? And I thought of this interview that had been done with Neil deGrasse Tyson. And if you recall, I shared from this interview. Neil was asked, what is the most astounding fact that you could tell us? The most astounding fact out of everything that you've studied. You're an astrophysicist, you have studied the vastness of our universe, the bigness of it all. So out of everything, decades of study, what could you share with us? And Neil starts out, and I'm not going to read it, I'm just going to kind of give a summary. And he starts out and he says, the most astounding fact that I could tell you is that the atoms, all the things in the universe that help make the universe are in you, and what's in us is also in the universe. And he unpacks that a little bit. He starts talking about how the universe was formed, how it's made, how stars were formed, and how they collapsed. And then those elements from those different stars and different things, how they became our planet and you and I. So nitrogen, carbon, oxygen, iron, all those things. And he talks about just this wonderful picture of how things have come to be. And that's great. I mean, I enjoy sharing and hearing about those things. But what I really appreciate when he's asked about the most astounding fact is that he turns it back to you and I, and he says, so when I look up at the night sky, you might think that I feel small, but I feel big because I'm in the universe and the universe is in me. And then this next line is what I really appreciate. He says, and what I feel is a sense of connectedness. And isn't that what you really want in life? To be connected, to feel connected, as he says, to feel like you are a part of the going-ons of our universe and of our world. But by the way, I really enjoyed this interview that he gave. I don't have any of these notes in front of my screen. I've just remembered these words that he said because it's just resounded with me. When he says, and isn't that what you really want in life? To feel connected? Yes. We can think about the bigness of it all. And yes, we could just maybe feel like, little ants just looking up at the world, not knowing what's going on maybe exactly. But we can also feel connected. So we started doing some different series at West Hill. We did a series on wisdom. We did a series on hope. And then as I thought, going into the holiday season, my mind started thinking, okay, what kind of series could we do? And as I thought about the holidays, I thought about those words. Isn't that what you really want in life? To feel connected? To feel like you are part of the going-ons of the universe? To feel connected. A lot of times at the holidays, it's a time of connection. And sometimes that can be really good. And honestly, sometimes that can be difficult. Families get together, and that can be a really great thing. But it can also come with difficulty. And especially today, as we talk about celebrated lives, sometimes around this time of year, we remember those especially that have gone on before us. But yet we can still have a sense of connection with them. We can still be connected. So in this series, we're going to be exploring, and Aiden, if we could bring up the next screen here where it says the main aim. This is the main thing. I will probably say lots of things today and even in this series, but this is the main thing. As I've heard it said before, let's keep the main thing the main thing. So this is what it's all about here. My main aim in this series is to increase our sense of connection because feeling connected supports greater well-being and life satisfaction. I'm going to read that one more time. My main aim for today, as well as the rest of the series, is to increase our sense of connection because feeling connected supports greater well-being and life satisfaction. I'm going to give you three reasons, three proofs that show this. Number one, oxytocin. It's a chemical that's in our brain. And when we feel a sense of connection, when we give somebody a hug, when we do something nice for somebody or someone gives kindness to us, oxytocin is released in our mind, in our brain. And this hormone is called the bonding hormone, the bonding chemical. It helps us feel a sense of connection with ourselves, with our world. And it's actually cyclical in nature. When we have connection, this chemical is released. But when this chemical is released, we also feel a greater sense of connection. And what's interesting is these very own elements that create this chemical, they've been a part of our universe for a long time. Literally, the universe is helping us be connected to the universe. Just that fact alone just kind of blows my mind. We are connected. The second thing that I'll give as a reason for this, that our main aim is to increase our sense of connection because it's good for greater well-being and life satisfaction. The second thing is that there's a book called The Social Brain. And we have all probably familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Where it says the biggest things is food, water, and shelter, right? In this book, I find it interesting. That the author of the book, Daniel Lieberman, he puts forth the social brain theory, which basically states that our brain has evolved because of our social nature, that we need to connect, that we need to feel the sense of connection. And it helps us survive. And so he says, Maslow's hierarchy, we think of the food, water, and shelter as being the greatest need and then belonging. But he makes the case, the psychologist makes the case, that maybe our social connection is the most important. He says, consider this. Think about a child, a newborn child, an infant. And because of that connection, the mother and the father feel a sense, a need to take care of the child. And in the unfortunate cases where the mother and the father can't, usually people step up and help take care of it. That child can't take care of its own shelter, its own food, its own sense of survival. But because of that social connection, we can understand through empathy and compassion that the child has needs just as we would. And then that child, how does it communicate? How does it take care of those needs? It can't build its own house. It can't go get its own food. It cries out. When it has a need, it cries out through that social connection. We need that connection. The third thing that I will put forth, and I've mentioned this before, there's a long-standing study called the Harvard Study of Adult Development. It's been going on since the 1930s. It started following people in Boston and checking in with them every 2 years and looking at the different things in their life, what was going on. And after nearly 100 years of this study, the biggest thing that they have found is they were very curious over multi-generations and people from different demographics. What would be the biggest thing, the biggest contributors to the good life or well-being and life satisfaction? The number one thing, those who have good relationships. It doesn't matter what demographic, what socioeconomic background you come from. Don't get me wrong; those things can have effect and can be a big part of it. But the number one indicator was relationships, connection. So once again, in this series, the main aim to increase our sense of connection, because feeling connected supports greater well-being and life satisfaction. That is my hope in this series. This morning, as I started looking at this series a while back, I thought about, the service that Westfield does, Celebrated Lives. And I think that's a great starting point. As we talk about connection, the truth is I am not here today if it isn't for people who came before me. And, it blows my mind. I think it's my 4 times great grandfather. He came from Germany in the 1850s. He got on a ship called the New Era was the name of the ship. And because he made a decision to try to make a better life for himself, I'm where I'm at today. And what's interesting on this ship, and I actually didn't plan on sharing this morning, so I'm kind of going off the cuff a little bit, but on this ship, 422 people started out on the ship. The ship sank. Only 163 of the people made it. 5 miles off the coast of the United States in New Jersey, the ship sank, and he was able to make it. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be here today. That blows my mind. The two stories that I did plan on sharing today, though, I'm going to share in just a moment. But before I do, I'm going to invite you. I want to tell you now so you have time to think about it. I want you to think about those who've come before you. And I have this question here. Who is somebody who has passed on, but whose influence still lives in you? How do they help you love and connect to yourself, others, and our world? So I'm going to share, two stories from my life. And while I'm doing that, I invite you to think about this question. And we'll pass the mic around. And one of the things that I think is helpful in this is not only for us to think about those who came before us, but if you want to share their story, because they're sharing their story helps their story live on and helps us feel that sense of connection. And then we're going to go into this time where we're going to read people's names and light candles and remember those people and all the people have come before us. So think about that and what you might share. But the two stories that I wanted to bring forth this morning from my life is one from my father. The truth is, my father passed away early on in my life. And I don't have, I have, some memories, but not a lot. But I will always feel a sense of connection. He's the one who helped raise me, who helped give me some of these different values. And I feel connected to my father. And not that we have all of the same viewpoints and all of the same opinions. I don't know where he would be at today and his thinking different viewpoints. But one of the main takeaways that I feel connected to my father with is, one, he taught me the importance of aiming to love, no matter what, to put that at the forefront. And the second thing is he gave me permission, allowance to wrestle and explore the big questions of life. I'll go a little bit deeper into that. Is that my father, he grew up in not the best of a situation. He grew up in poverty and in a single parent home, and he basically his nickname when he was younger, they called him the brain, because he was so much about his studies. And I look at that and I think, because he chose to educate himself, I think about how that helped take him out of difficult situations. And then he actually ended up becoming a minister. And I've heard a lot of his sermons when I was younger, but also I have, Scott mentioned cassettes. I still have a lot of the cassettes. And I hear someone who talks about, some of these values, such as, love and compassion. But I also have his journals. And in his journals, I have his own writing when he thought it was just him and the piece of paper. And I've read through some of those since he's passed years ago, or actually I've read through all of it. And what I see is someone who is wrestling with the big questions of life. Someone who is saying, I want to do better for myself, for my family, for those that I am around, for my community. And I appreciate that from my father. And so when I have wrestled, when I have explored those big questions, I feel that connection to him, that I'm not alone in this journey, that he too has wrestled with that. The second person that I think about this morning that I will always feel a sense of connection with, the values that they taught me will always live on. It's my Aunt Deb. After my father passed, I lived with different family members, and one of them was my Aunt Deb. And she was close to me and opened up her home to me. Years later, when I was wrestling with some of these questions, exploring some of these big questions, I had told a few people, this is where I think that I'm at. To be honest, I had some mixed results from people. I had some people who really didn't support my decisions that much, unfortunately. But when I went to my Aunt Deb, she was towards the end of her life. She wasn't in the best of health. She was in a nursing room, or nursing home room. And I went to her and I talked to her. And I mentioned the nursing home because even though she was in somewhat of a difficult situation, she always tried to have a sense of gratitude. I remember just like it was yesterday, she had, just one window in the room. And I remember that light, coming through. And I remember talking to her. She laid there in her nursing home bed. And I told her about, where I'd been and, wrestling with some of these questions. And she responded to me just 4 words. 4 words. The first 3 words went like this. She said, "Are you happier?" And I said, "Aunt Deb, I am. I really think I am." And then she responded back with that 4th word, just 1 word. She said, "Good," with a big smile on her face. Just 4 words. Are you happier? And then good. And what she was saying to me is, you belong with me. Good. I'm happy for you. You've explored these questions. And even though some people might disagree, you're still good in my book, Joe. And so I think about my Aunt Deb. I think about someone who is aiming to be an inclusive person, a non-judgmental person who said, you're connected, you belong. So this morning, as we think about those who've come before us, I hope we feel that connection that we have to them, that gratitude that we can feel with them.
Become a sustaining champion of West Hill United's work by committing to an automatic monthly donation. Learn more or donate now through Canada Helps.